nervous, on the surface I look fine. My brain feels heavy, my traumatized mind. And I'm so tired, I can't feel my eyes. Whoa, whoa. I'm petty, but I know how to lie. I feel feelings that I can't describe. I'm not breathing, but I'm still alive. Whoa, whoa.
Shout out to Neoliberal Tears for this.
Shout out to Twitter/X user Neoliberal Tears for resurfacing this clip.
Neoliberal Tears commented at the top of the show, "What happened to my music?" One of my favorite commenters.
Yeah, big fan.
So much affection for me.
He's a bit of bias. Prepare for a holiday season of Neoliberal Tears.
Hello, and welcome to Nightcap with Neoliberal Tears. I am him, Neoliberal Tears, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different, without revealing too much about myself to the Zionists who might be watching this. My background is actually, at least my academic background, has more to do with Latin American studies than Palestine. But there are parallels from things that I've learned and I'd like to share here with you guys when it comes to US foreign policy in Latin America and US foreign policy in West Asia and East Asia and all around the world, really. So I found these videos that might make it a little bit more fun. They're by a YouTube channel, animation YouTube channel called Filmcow. Highly recommend. They're the originators of such classics such as Llamas with Hats and Charlie the Unicorn. You might be familiar with. So that the creator of those cartoons also made these videos that have to do with Latin American history. That I thought that we can watch together and maybe react to. You know, they say that, I don't know, I've never taken like an autism test or anything like that, but I do feel like pattern recognition is something that I've unfortunately noticed when it comes to American foreign policy and things like that. So if you recognize the patterns, or maybe we can recognize them together, hopefully you'll see what I mean. So let's start with this video. It's a little bit spooky, so just beware if you're afraid of the dark, or if you're listening to this in the dark. Maybe turn on a light. Maybe cuddle your pet. A little spooky, shall we say?
It was the 1970s, Chile. Salvador Allende had just become the country's 56th president. Allende, a socialist, was not interested in violent revolution as a means of transforming his country. He instead believed that a transition from capitalism to socialism could be achieved peacefully. Under his watch, the government nationalized various factories owned by foreign capitalists and redistributed the profits to the Chilean workers. Unemployment was down, housing was becoming more affordable, things seemed to be going well. But all the while, a train had been chugging along in forgotten secret tunnels, circling Allende and getting ready to switch to the second track. This secretive, conniving train was Henry Kissinger. And the second track was
Henry Kissinger, friend of the show. May he rest in peace.
the CIA. You see, United States President Richard Nixon simply could not let a socialist run a foreign country. Running foreign countries was America's job. So he gave Secretary of State Henry Kissinger the task of overthrowing Allende using absolutely any means necessary. Kissinger developed 2 tracks for removing the democratically elected leader. Track 1 involved secretly convincing the Chilean Congress to overturn the election results. When that failed, he moved to Track 2. the CIA. The operation began with Rene Schneider, the commander of the Chilean army. Schneider, a constitutionalist, would never have supported a coup against a legally elected president. So the CIA sent $50,000 and a bunch of guns to some disgruntled generals, and Schneider was promptly murdered. This paved the way for CIA-backed Augusto Pinochet to violently overthrow Allende's government and install himself as a fascist dictator, a position he held for 17 years. Thousands were tortured and murdered under his rule, including more than 100 civilians who were simply thrown out of helicopters into the ocean as a form of execution. By the time of Pinochet's death in 2006, he had more than 300 criminal charges pending against him in Chile for human rights violations. As for the train, they say if you put your ear to the ground, you can still hear it chugging along. That's all for now. I'm Relno the Story Keeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
Scary, right? Terrifying. So any idea that the United States is interested in, gets involved in the foreign affairs of other countries when it comes to human rights or protecting women or protecting gay people, I think we all know that's hilarious, in a very sad way. Not actually funny. So as I was listening, there's also I was also trying to find this telegram that was sent by the CIA to the station in Chile. You can see it's from October 16, 1970. Track 2, policy objectives and actions were reviewed at high U.S. government level afternoon, October 15. Conclusions, which are to be your operational guide, follow. It is, and we're looking at, let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay. It is firm and continuing policy that Salvador Allende, be overthrown by a coup. It would be much preferable to have this transpire prior to October 24th, but efforts in this regard will continue vigorously beyond this date. We are to continue to generate maximum pressure toward this end, utilizing every appropriate resource. It is imperative that these actions be implemented clandestinely and securely, so that the U.S. government and American hand be well hidden. While this imposes upon us a high degree of selectivity in making military contacts and dictates that these contacts be made in the most secure manner, it definitely does not preclude contact such as something reported in Santiago 554, which was a masterful piece of work. So this was 3 years before the actual coup, 1970. It is firm and continuing policy that Allende be overthrown by a coup. Yikes. All right, let's move on to the next one. Shall we?
The year was 1954. A nefarious hunter was stalking the streets of major U.S. cities in the dead of night, seeking victims to drug or poison and then conduct experiments on. Initially, victims were lured back to one of several secret lairs, but soon the hunter became bolder, secretly drugging people at restaurants or bars with increasingly dangerous substances. This dastardly hunter, with drugs in one hand and poisons in the other, was George Hunter White. Under the direction of the CIA, you see, CIA spy master Sidney Gottlieb, best known as the head of Project MK-Ultra, was concerned about Soviet advancements in mind control drugs and poisons. Thus, Operation Midnight Climax was born. a sub-project of MKUltra headed by George Hunter White. The project was named after its initial use of sex workers to lure men back to CIA-operated brothels, where the unsuspecting Johns would be drugged or poisoned and then watched by agents from behind a one-way mirror. The experiments varied wildly. In some, attempts were made to brainwash people into committing robberies or murders. In others, various poisons were administered to test their vile effects and longevity. Most of the documents detailing the experiments were destroyed, but a letter from George Hunter White thanking Sidney Gottlieb for the opportunity shed some light on the general vibe. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest? Pretty good stuff, brother.
And that's a real quote. Lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage. Colonial tradition.
The operation was shut down in 1963, and George Hunter White died in 1975. But do you think he was the last hunter a certain agency sent stalking its own citizens? That's all for now. I'm Relno the Storykeeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
So now we know where the CIA being called spooks or spookies. Now we know where that comes from. They are legitimately spooky as fuck. My God, sexual blackmail, pillaging, rape. I think I've seen this film before. Hey, that's the title of today's stream. Oh my God. What a coinkydink. Just kidding. All right, let's move to the next one. Ay, ay.
It was 1974, Argentina. Juan Perón, president of Argentina, was dead. This meant Vice President Isabel Perón, his wife, inherited the office of the presidency, making her the first woman president of any country in the history of the earth. Her tenure as president was rocky, to say the least. Workers had always made up the bulk of Peronist supporters. However, with rising unrest due to inflation and economic instability, Perón turned on those workers, sending brutal police assaults against the Unionists. All the while, the sinister Falconer had sent his filthiest, grimiest, most unsanitary bird to watch Perón. This disgusting bird, sitting atop its grimy perch, was thinking, "There is not nearly enough suffering going on here."
Can you guess who the bird is? The bald eagle? Maybe. You know. You already know.
The dirty bird, of course, was the CIA. And the falconer was Henry Kissinger. You see, United States Secretary...
Henry Kissinger, always at the scene of the fucking crime. My God, I bet he's so pissed that he doesn't get to... I mean, from hell underneath. I bet he's so pissed he doesn't get to participate in the new wars we have Trump dragging us all into. I bet he's so sad. It's like when Hillary said she was sad that she didn't get to start the war with Russia or Iran or whichever. It's like fear of missing out, but for war criminals. Anyway.
State Henry Kissinger had never been satisfied with the mere subduing of labor movements. Labor movements needed to be genocided. Thus, he sent his favorite gross bird, in the form of the CIA's Operation Condor, to kickstart what became known as the Dirty War. Perón was removed from power in a CIA-backed coup, and a military junta was established in her place. This junta began what they dishonestly called a dirty war. It wasn't actually a war. It was a wave of murder, torture, and rape, committed by the junta's forces against unionists, journalists, students, artists, activists, and, frankly, whoever. Pregnant women were kidnapped so that their babies could be stolen and given to military families. The mothers were then drugged, stripped, and dropped out of airplanes into the Atlantic Ocean to drown. Kissinger approved these tactics. The murder, the torture, the rape, the baby kidnapping. His only critique was that the junta needed to do it all faster, as he was worried outcry over the massive human rights violations might force the US to scale back their financial and intelligence support. In the end, however, the so-called Dirty War lasted 7 years. Many members of the junta are now in prison for genocide. The Bird, however, and of course the Bird's falconer, continue their dirty work to this very day. That's all for now. I'm Relno the Storykeeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
And as if Argentina hasn't suffered enough, there's a billionaire that I'm sure you've heard trying to make his way there. And I don't know, torture more people, unionists, whoever, really whoever. I mean, so that was Argentina. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying with me. Let's see. Spooky indeed. Okay, let's go.
You may have noticed a pattern to these stories, and nothing is less spooky than...
Have you? Have you noticed the pattern? You had to have, right? I feel like the pattern is super obvious. It's like, it's whenever countries even like... Okay, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what to think. That's so silly. That's so silly. You're smart. I trust you. Except unless you're a Zionist. And if you are a Zionist, please block this channel. Nothing good will, you won't benefit from this. Trust me, you're a lost cause. And just block me. Okay, I'm sorry.
Predictability, so I'll say right up front, the Hand is not the CIA. You got that? It's not the CIA. Our story begins in 1942, France. German Gestapo leader Klaus Barbie had been assigned as commander of the secret police in the occupied city of Lyon. He was an especially cruel man, even by Nazi standards. Even by the standards of the worst Nazis. He made it his business to personally torture, maim, and murder children. And by the end of the occupation had more than 14,000 deaths to his name, earning him the title, the Butcher of Lyon. The war ended in 1945, although the butcher's work was not yet complete. You see, a mysterious hand swooped in, plucked him up, and hid him away, so that he could avoid punishment for his many crimes and continue his legacy of unspeakable barbarism. That hand was the CIC, and yes, later the CIA. You see, the CIA hadn't been formed yet, and so the United States Army's Counterintelligence Corps handled this one at first. The CIC thought Barbie would be helpful in America's anti-communist efforts, so they put him up in a hotel and paid him to report on any communists he saw working with the French government. Later, the Butcher of Lyon, thanks to CIA support, moved to Bolivia, where he enjoyed a long and prosperous career kidnapping and torturing leftists, even becoming a regular collaborator with Bolivian dictator Hugo Banzer. As for the Hand, it's true that the CIC is no more, but a hand wearing a different glove is the same hand. That's all for now. I'm Relno the Storykeeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
Whew. Okay. Let's move on.
It was the 1970s, Bolivia, a time of great instability, with various military dictators vying for control through bloodier and bloodier coups. One such coup by Rogelio Miranda lasted only a day before he was replaced by the much more popular Juan José Torres. Unfortunately for Torres, he immediately fell into the cold gaze of the Watcher. You see, Torres was part of a new generation of Bolivian military leaders, a socialist who, upon taking power, immediately created a parliamentary People's Assembly made up of teachers, miners, farmers, and the like, with the hopes of shifting the balance of power in the country from the foreign capitalists to the Bolivian working class. The Watcher was greatly displeased by this push for worker power, and Torres's promise to protect Bolivia's natural resources from foreign interests. You see, the Watcher was the CIA. United States President Richard Nixon was very concerned about peasants gaining political power in Bolivia, and so he offered massive financial and intelligence supports to would-be dictator Hugo Banzer. Banzer, using this support, violently ousted Torres and spent the next 7 years ruling Bolivia in a CIA-friendly manner. For instance, he created what was known as the horror chambers in the basement of the Ministry of the Interior, which was used to torture thousands of dissidents such as students and...
At the basement of the Ministry of the Interior. Maybe that's what the Trump ballroom is about. You know, he just wants to have like a private torture dungeon for the leftists, the spooky leftists. My God. And oh my God, my friend Seeking Truth in K9 is here. Hello. Love to see you always. Making an excellent point that Henry Kissinger actually won, like all war criminals, the Nobel Peace Prize. At this point, I feel like it's like they're giving it to everyone. Like you have to be a war criminal to even like qualify or for a Nobel Peace Prize. My God. Not surprising, since Nobel invented dynamite and whose family started the company Bofors. That's a weapons manufacturer. What is this world we're living in? My God.
Nuns. Torres himself had fled to Buenos Aires, where 5 years later he was kidnapped and murdered by agents acting under the command of the CIA as part of Operation Condor. As for the Watcher, no doubt it watches still. Does it watch you? That's all for now. I'm Relno the Story Keeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
So, the Watcher, if you're watching this, hi. Hi. Love you. Thank you for being here. Okay, we just have a few more, but you're seeing the pattern, right? I think it's hard not to notice. And it's terrifying. Sorry, I'm just getting lost in the sauce of dread. So that was Bolivia. Okay.
It was 1962, the United States of America. Anti-communist fervor wasn't quite what it had been in the 50s. Fidel Castro had risen to power in Cuba just a few years earlier, but after the US-backed Bay of Pigs invasion had ended so disastrously, there was little public support in the States for a war with his government. As John F. Kennedy debated over which human rights violations he was willing to commit against the Cuban people, a lumbering, flesh-hungry creature began its own plans against the United States. This creature was developing dastardly schemes to blow up U.S. military bases, sink U.S. ships, shoot down civilian planes, and even set off pipe bombs in major U.S. cities. This plotting, bloodthirsty, murderous creature was the CIA. Without public
twist! What a twist! Oh my God! Who could have predicted?
support for military action against Cuba, but dearly wishing for it, the U.S. Department of Defense developed Operation Northwoods, a plot to manufacture that support through CIA false flag terrorist attacks against its own citizens and military. The plan was signed by General Lyman Lemnitzer and authorized by Kennedy's Joint Chiefs of Staff. Unfortunately for this foul creature, Kennedy's own lust for blood extended mostly to foreigners, and so the plan was never carried out. Although some say if the night is clear and the winds are calm, you can still hear its stomach growl. That's all for now. I'm Relno, the story keeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
Just imagine the kind of shit they're up to right now, and we won't even know for the next 30, 40 years if humanity is still around, if we haven't all moved underwater because of climate change. Just imagine what's being done. But there's consistency, and I guess we can give the CIA points for consistency. It's always the same objectives, right? It's to neutralize any movements that have to do with leftist objectives or unionists or movements to nationalize private resources away from foreign entities and corporations. And the method is always the same: violent, repressive, installing fascist right-wing dictators with very little regard for human life. And here we have from my friend Seeking Truth in Canines. Just look at how the US class South America, our backyard. And like in the backyard, one mows the grass. Oh, see the parallel? Yeah, I mean, and if that's why I think when the stuff with with Venezuela, it's been kind of like decades in the making of interference, and there was this. I mean, even back in 2017, when Trump was first elected, they were already looking at all kinds of ways to destabilize the Venezuelan government. I think they threw a lot of money at like some like weird militia group that headed by an American citizen, to sort of see like what they could get away with. Didn't really work then, but they persist. Nevertheless, they persisted. Okay, so here's our last sort of spookiness story. I hope you're still with me on this journey. I think this might be the only one that's not centered on Latin America, but I could be wrong. Let's see.
It was the 1960s, Brazil. João Goulart had been elected president on a platform of democratic reform. He wished to create government-funded programs to combat adult illiteracy and expand voting rights.
Uh-oh. How dare he? How dare he?
But above all, he wished to redistribute agricultural lands again.
This spooky series, which is amazing, you should check it out. It's from the Filmcow YouTube channel. It doesn't need to, but I mean, it hasn't really touched yet on Guatemala, which similarly in the 50s, Jacobo Arbenz was experimenting with the idea of giving land to peasants and landless individuals for free. And guess who that pissed off? And who was couped very soon afterwards. Anyway, back to Brazil.
Give more people ownership over their labor. But as Goulart made these plans, an ominous shadow began to creep across the streets of Brazil. With every new reform, with every step taken towards a more equitable future, this hungry shadow grew ever closer, until finally it reached the feet of Goulart himself. This shadow was the CIA. You see, John F. Kennedy had sent Goulart a letter asking for Brazil's help in a land invasion of Cuba. Goulart replied that he would never recognize war as an instrument capable of resolving conflicts between nations. Kennedy, personally insulted and worried about all that anti-American commie stuff Goulart was getting up to, gave the CIA the task of making sure Brazil remained true to American values. Thus, Operation Brother Sam was born, a CIA operation to aid a coup d'etat against Goulart through propaganda, psychological warfare, 110 tons of ammunition and tear gas, an aircraft carrier, 2 guided missile destroyers, and who knows what else. Well, the coup was successful, and Goulart was run out of the country to be replaced by a pro-US military dictatorship. Goulart himself was later poisoned to death, likely by agents acting under the command of the CIA as part of Operation Condor. As for the shadow, some say it still stalks the streets of Brazil to this very day. That's all for now. I'm Relno, the Story Keeper, reminding you to stay spooky.
From our friend Seeking Truth in Canines. Speaking of they persisted, don't forget the Democratic warmonger, Queen of Warmongers, Hillary Clinton. In her book, she persisted. It does bring a smile to my face just to think that at least Hillary couldn't start any wars on her watch. You know, we deprived her of that joy. Is joy the word? I don't know. We deprived her of, we gave her FOMO from all of the new wars that are starting. Or maybe she found a hobby, that doesn't have to do with, maybe she's on the board of Raytheon, just like, scheming. Maybe she's gonna run again. Oh my God. Like I was telling my friend that, like, wouldn't it be hilarious, but in a very depressing, cynical, sad way, if Hillary decided to run again in 2028? I mean, look, she's a narcissist. Like, why not? Like, from her perspective, Trump did it. Trump lost and then ran again. So it's like, why not her? Why not her? Why not break that glass ceiling? I don't know why I'm smiling when I'm saying this. Like, I should not be putting that out into the universe. So let me retract everything I just said. We deserve better. But I mean, it would be funny in like a very evil, weird way. And of course, I mean, not. And thank you, Seeking Truth. She took time to congratulate Trump on his war with Iran. Yeah. She probably had to process all of her like feelings of. Like wishing she was there, like she's heartbroken that she couldn't start the war on Iran. You know what I mean? But what was I gonna say? That doesn't matter. Hillary, if you're saying this, I love you. You're my number one. Okay, you're a friend of the show. Please don't kill me. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that there are any countries left for her to start wars with. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Trump sort of like swept up. I'm sure she'll find one. I'm sure she'll find a country to start a war on. So there's a great tweet I wanted to share. Thank you for joining me tonight. Oh my God, I'm shocked there are actual people watching this. Hello, whoever you are, unless you're a Zionist. If you're a Zionist, block me. I beg of you. But if you're anti-Zionist, welcome. And you are loved, you are seen, you are validated, and you're heard. I wanted to share this tweet from someone I really admire and look up to. Her name is Dr. Rada Sassa. She's on Twitter. Highly recommend following her. She's also an expert when it comes to the effects of environmental colonialism, and especially focusing on Palestine. She has incredible insights when it comes to native flora and how colonialism has negatively contributed to climate change, and also like been a disaster for the native environment and all that stuff. And here's a tweet she shared. Pre-colonial Palestine was socialist and women were highly empowered. Inshallah, we will see the dismantlement of Israeli settler colonialism in the near future and reestablish an even more egalitarian society than before. So pre-colonial Palestine being socialist, I think, was something that I certainly was not aware of. Oh, where did I go? Hillary, did you remove me? Hillary, come on, that's playing. Oh, there we go. There I am. I don't think a lot of people were aware of that necessarily, and I think it sort of ties into the spooky videos we were seeing, maybe, potentially, allegedly, and sort of what the incentive in the United States is to keep Palestine from ever existing, right? And not letting Palestinians, not giving Palestinians the right to vote, because God forbid, what if they voted for a socialist government? I think we know what, from the perspective of the United States, would happen. And if you're looking to learn more about pre-colonial Palestine and socialism, I highly recommend this book called The Palestinians by Rosemary Sayegh. Hillary, if you're watching this, please don't kill me. I'm just imagining right now, like Hillary, like just like watching this on her couch and just like adding me onto the kill list or whatever. I'm sure she has a list. I'm sure there's a list or a book, a black book. Yikes. Okay, and oh wait, we have another comment from my bestie. When the budget of the Department of War is over $1 trillion, one has to but find wars to justify existence. That's true. That's true. That's true. It's so funny. Like, politicians are so brazen. Like, you know, Trump basically ran. I mean, we all knew he was lying, but like he basically ran by saying, I'll be the president of peace, blah, blah, blah. I'll stop war in Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. 3 days after he's inaugurated, he introduces the new defense like the new defense bill, you know, the one they vote on every year. And he's like, you know, for the first time, it's $1 trillion. We like, you know, he acted like it was like, you know, like reaching the mega million or something. Like, you know, he acted like it was a positive achievement. Like, yay, we broke a record. We're spending $1 trillion on war. Yeah. So fucking stupid. And you know what's scary? Like, what's even scarier is that, like, you know, in many ways, Trump has sort of like shown whichever Republican demon comes after him that it's gonna be, you know, like he laid the groundwork for how they can just like start all sorts of fucking wars. And I know Obama and Biden, like Biden started the genocide, Obama took us from 2 wars to 7. I know that it's like a bipartisan consensus, but with Trump, I feel like he even like, I mean, he accelerated a lot of that, and I'm just worried about like whoever comes after him, what they're gonna feel like they can get away with, in terms of what my bestie was saying, like, you know, starting new wars to justify increasing the budget, the military budget, because it's not going down anytime soon. Allegedly. He said $1 trillion, and Democrats cheered on him because their manliness was threatened. Yes. I mean, even Elizabeth Warren was kind of like, you could see she was happy, like, you know, with like, you know, the war on Iran. I mean, wasn't it like the State of the Union address where like they were clapping for him, like, you know, kidnapping the president of Venezuela or whatever? I feel like the Democrats are loving that Trump is sort of like doing all of that basically for their donors and their corporations and defense manufacturers, and they just have to like, all they need to do is just sit back and say, oh, but he started it, he did it, it's not our fault. So in keeping with the theme of tonight, And I wanted to also share again, I know I shared this before, but it's such a good read. This article by Joseph Massad, published a few weeks ago, about how Zionism was built as a bulwark against socialism. To sort of understand because I see a lot of people sort of on Twitter, not, just like sort of asking sincerely, like, what is the utility of the apartheid state in West Asia? Why is so much money being spent on it? Like, is it just AIPAC? Is it just the lobby? Is it just J Street? And I think Professor Massad did an excellent job of sort of laying out the strategic interest, because it's actually very consistent. If you look at American foreign policy throughout the years, it makes complete sense if you see it from the perspective of Zionism being a bulwark to stop or prevent socialism, or like we listened from in another stream, I think Chomsky was the State Department, sorry, not Chomsky, the State Department in the 40s was describing the threat as radical Arab nationalism, socialism. You can see the consistency, you can see the pattern. So let me take you to a passage here that talked about the Balfour Declaration. Okay. Let's see if, okay, here we go. Oh, let me make it a little bit bigger. Oh, we have another comment. Yes, she got up to clap Elizabeth Warren. That fucking snake. She's also like Hillary, it's her and Hillary just like on the phone feeling FOMO that they didn't get to be president and start any new wars. I feel so sad for them. It's so anti-feminist to not let women start new wars, Golda Meir got to do it. Why not them? Indeed, it was Zionist anti-communism that clinched the alliance with anti-Bolshevik Britain. The timing of the 1917 Balfour Pledge of British support for Zionism's quest for a national home for Jews in Palestine, issued only 5 days before the triumph of the October Revolution in Russia, was not a coincidence. And of course, the Balfour Declaration was issued in 1917 about a quote-unquote Jewish national home in Palestine, long before the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust, sorry. Acting on false reports from Zionist informants claiming that most Russian Jews were Zionists who might otherwise support socialism, British officials grew anxious after the February Revolution regarding Jewish backing for the socialist movement. In April 1917, Lord Robert Cecil, then parliamentary secretary to the Foreign Office, telegraphed the British ambassador in Petrograd, arguing, "We are advised that one of the best methods of counteracting Jewish pacifist and socialist propaganda in Russia would be to offer a definite encouragement to Jewish nationalist aspirations in Palestine." So you see, they basically thought, what if we just moved all of these Jews to Palestine? Wouldn't that stop socialism or all of these crazy words? Not to mention that Lord Balfour was racist himself, but sorry, not just racist, anti-Semitic. But you can see from the language here that they were using Jewish people as sort of like human shields to stop or prevent socialism from Russia and also Palestine. Okay, let's continue. The victory of Russian communists removed the key incentive for Eastern European Jews to emigrate, jeopardizing British and Zionist plans for Palestine. By pledging to secure a Jewish national home there, Britain sought to promote an alternative ideology that would discourage Russian Jews from supporting communism. US President Woodrow Wilson echoed similar views in backing the Balfour Declaration. His support stemmed from American concern about the spread of communism along East European Jews, particularly Poland, after the October Revolution in Russia. So you see, this is why Woodrow Wilson supported the Balfour Declaration. Also, it had nothing to do with, I want to give them a home because they deserve a home and their home has a right to exist at the expense of Palestinians, blah, blah, blah. No. They're being very clear here. Woodrow Wilson was concerned about the spread of communism among East European Jews, particularly Poland, after the October Revolution in Russia. The American position was reinforced at the end of 1918 when Balfour discussed the Jews in Palestine with Wilson's chief advisor, Colonel Edward M. House. In his diary, House recorded that Balfour is inclined to believe that nearly all Bolshevism and disorder of that sort is directly traceable to Jews. Yikes. House added, I suggested putting them, or the best of them, in Palestine, and holding them responsible for the orderly behavior of Jews throughout the world. Balfour thought the plan had possibilities. This form of Western anti-communism, itself transmogrified anti-Semitism, labeled Russian communists and the Soviet revolutionary government as Judeo-Bolsheviks, which I believe is a term Candace Owens loves to use. So, I don't know, I don't watch her. The Communist International created by the Soviets understood this dynamic. The Second and Third Comintern Congress of 1920 and 1921 characterized Zionism as a movement intended to divert the European Jewish working masses from the class struggle, and is nothing but a petty bourgeois, counter-revolutionary utopia. Let's see more here. Winston Churchill was among the first to publicly articulate these anti-Semitic ideas, describing communism as a Jewish conspiracy for world domination, in contrast to Zionism, which colluded with imperialism, anti-Semitism, and the Western European Jewish bourgeoisie, while promoting a settler colonial solution to, quote-unquote, the Jewish problem. In the February 1920 article titled Zionism versus Bolshevism, published in the Sunday Herald, Churchill professed support for assimilated Jews loyal to their countries of citizenship. He dismissed them, however, as politically irrelevant to what he saw as the central struggle between Zionism and communism, represented by what he called quote-unquote, international Jews bent on a conspiracy to destroy Western Christian civilization. Zionism, and this is what he said, Zionism offers the third sphere to the political conceptions of the Jewish race. In violent contrast to international communism, it presents to the Jew a national idea of a commanding character. It has fallen to the British government as the result of the conquest of Palestine to have the opportunity and the responsibility of securing for the Jewish race all over the world a home and the center of national life. Zionism has already become a factor in the political convulsions of Russia as a powerful competing influence in Bolshevik circles with the international communistic system. Nothing could be more significant than the fury with which Trotsky has attacked the Zionists generally, Dr. Chaim Weizmann in particular. As early as December 1922, Chaim Weizmann met in British-occupied Jerusalem with Britain's High Commissioner, the Jewish Zionist Herbert Samuel, the British police chief, and other colonial officials, urging them to repress communist Jewish settlers in Palestine and bar the future immigration of Jewish communists. You see, so they wanted a home for Jewish people in Palestine, just not communist Jews. No, not them. We're trying to prevent that kind of nonsense in Palestine. God forbid. We have another comment from my bestie. Israel and Formosa are bases of imperialism in Asia. You are the front door of this great continent. We are the back door. They created Israel for you and Formosa, Taiwan, for us. Mao Zedong. Mao said that to the Palestinian delegation in 1965. Oh my God. Oh my God. My God. Weitzman emphasized that what the officials already believed: Zionists and Bolsheviks were deadly enemies. Bolsheviks persecuted Zionists. Bolshevism is in every manner completely opposed to Zionism. So now we see why the West is so in love with Zionism, right? Doesn't really have to do with anti-Semitism or the safety of Jewish people, not really. So this is a great article. And also, so I highly recommend it. And it also sort of, I think, presents kind of like an interesting, the way they were worried about Judaism destroying Western, quote unquote, civilization. It's almost like a mirror image of how we're seeing politicians talk about Islam now, right? Islam and anyone who is Muslim, quote unquote, trying to destroy our Western civilization. It's word for word what they said about Jewish people. Terrifying. History is just a flat fucking circle. So I highly recommend this article about the strategic interest, the strategic utility of Zionism to thwart socialist movements, spooky communist, quote unquote, movements. And I hope you see the pattern. I don't know. It's really depressing. But I hope I was able to shed some light on something that not a lot of people may know or talk about very often. I feel like we get trapped in these cycles. I don't know. I'm really like, I made the mistake of like over time, especially since the genocide started, to sort of like get some of my news or most of my news off of Twitter. And it's like completely I mean, because people from Gaza are on there and they're sharing their campaigns, and you can hear from them directly, the journalists who are in a concentration camp, dying every day, documenting everything for the rest of us to bear witness. But I've noticed a lot of like big accounts, commentators, whatever, American pundits, a lot of them just fall into the trap of just like looking to see what Brianna Wu said and then dunking on Brianna Wu, who was a nobody before this genocide. She literally only became prominent because so many anti-Zionist Americans were like, without meaning to, elevating her and dunking on her. And I think that's just, and like there's another one, right? Like Corey, I think is his name. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? And I just feel so like demoralized because sometimes I wonder if people are just looking for people to dunk on instead of like using Twitter to like elevate campaigns from survivors of the Gaza Holocaust, and sharing them. Like, we don't need, Zionists never argue in good faith. So whatever virtue signaling you're doing by dunking on Brianna Wu, like she's an idiot, she's a Zionist. She also didn't even know what Zionism was until the genocide started, and it started paying her money. Anyway, I'm really frustrated by the discourse, I guess, I see on Twitter, and I kind of have to like step away. And I just kind of, I don't know. I know I sound like a fucking nerd by saying like, I wish we had like informative conversations about history and, what is Zionism rooted in. But I feel like sometimes people just want to like dunk and virtue signal. I don't know. I just think it's a shame. I don't know if I made any sense right now. From my bestie, Seeking Truth in Canines, Islamophobia is a natural progression of anti-Semitism for imperial interests. 100%. Professor Massad said that too many years ago. And I think Sorry, I'm trying to really like be thoughtful about the things I say, and I usually fail. You know, Islamophobia, as you say, and as Professor Massad says, serves a purpose, right, for capitalist interests. Like it didn't just come out of nowhere. Like it's planned, it's deliberate. It's like it's everywhere. Like, you know, even in media we notice it. Like, you know, like the way they depict people from West Asia or the Middle East as barbaric. I mean, the whole phenomenon of otherizing people from the Middle East and West Asia. It serves an imperial purpose, as you say, and anti-Semitism used to serve that exact purpose, which is, you know, like, and I think that's what I guess I wish people were sort of more focused on. At least I'm talking about like bigger accounts who traffic in this sort of, who have reach. You know, I'm just here with 3 of my best friends. You know, nobody listens to me, but like, I definitely wish that the people who have larger reaches try to scratch a little bit more of the surface instead of falling into traps of debates between like we don't need another like Piers Morgan segment with a Zionist and an anti-Zionist yelling at each other. Like, we don't need more of that shit. Like, I mean, I don't know what that serves except to make Piers Morgan extremely fucking rich, you know? But when it comes to sort of like the scratching the history and the real motivations behind supporting Zionism, I feel like a lot of people are just avoiding it for whatever reason. Like, you know, and you're not going to hear that from Tucker Carlson, right? Or Candy Owens or whoever, like, you know, none of them. Or even like the left accounts, right? Like, I mean, it's just like no one really wants to scratch more than the surface or I don't know. Maybe I'm just difficult. Let's see if my bestie agrees. Yes, many people on both the self-described left and the right are making a fortune off of the blood of Palestinians, Lebanese, Iraqis, Yemenis, and Iranians. And that's exactly how I feel and why this channel will never be monetized. I don't want blood money. I don't need blood money. Yeah, and I think like the incentive structure on YouTube is just like, I'm thinking, I mean, I don't know if I want to call out this creator directly. So I mean, I won't do that. We don't need more drama. But yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I think that's why I really cherish Ali Abu Nima and the Electronic Intifada. I can't wait until I get Palestine is free and I get to shut this channel down and become an Ali Abu Nima Stan account, as I'm destined to do when Palestine is finally free, and there's no reason to talk about the one-state solution any longer because it's happening. It's already happening. And yeah, I feel like I guess because we live in a capitalist world, in a capitalist society, Palestine has sort of, and the interest, the global interest in the genocide, like, which is based on people being human, right? Like, you know, and wanting to know what's going on. Like, it created like this perverse incentive structure for some creators with a large following to like only report on Palestinians as torture porn, or talking about like dunking on Brianna Wu and Corey and Emily Schrader, like whoever the new Zionist puppet who's speaking on Piers Morgan is. Like Piers Morgan like made so much money because of people being interested in Palestine and like, you know, and wanting this genocide to end. And because he was one of the only channels that would platform people like Rania Khalek, for example, who is an incredible, right? And everybody go subscribe to Breakthrough News. But he would use it in a format that was a disservice to people like journalists like Rania. And he was able to make a lot of money. I mean, I was just reading, let me see if I can find it, that Piers Morgan was, I read this article that Piers Morgan actually sold his company. Let me see if I can find it. So gross. I can't imagine like a faster way to end up in hell. I don't know if hell exists. I hope it does. I'm not like religious. I'm more like spiritual in that sense. But like, God, I hope hell exists. I really do. I have a list of people I'd like to see. Anyway, I found the article. This look at this. No, wait, hold on. That's a different article. My bad. Oh no, that is the article. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. And it's everybody, right? It's not, it's Fucker Carlson, it's all of it. Okay. Piers Morgan hires former MSNBC chief Rashida Jones to lead media company. Morgan's company, Uncensored, also raised cash from Antenna Group, Rain Ventures, and Rubin Brothers. Piers Morgan is expanding his growing... Oh, sorry. So many fucking ads. Also, part of the capitalist hellscape we live in. Oh, sorry. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Piers Morgan is expanding his growing digital media empire, and he is turning to fellow cable news veterans to help him do it. Morgan, the provocative former newspaper editor turned TV personality, has hired Rashida Jones, the former president of MSNBC, to become the CEO of his company. The hiring of Jones comes as Uncensored raises fresh capital from Rain Ventures, Antenna Group, and Rubin Brothers, the investment firm led by David and Simon Rubin. Uncensored is said to have been seeking about $30 million in the latest investment round as it seeks to create a new media empire. $30 million. Uncensored began with Morgan's YouTube show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, and recently launched a second show, History Uncensored, led by former CNN anchor Bianca Nobillo. Morgan's show also airs on TV through Paramount's Channel 5 in the UK. Unbelievable. Now free of the confines of traditional media, he has been building out a digital empire, joining fellow cable veterans like Megyn Kelly, sorry, I'm trying to like spit on all the Fucker Carlson, and Don Lemon, in the space. And he is turning to one of the top executives from that world to help him do it. The ambition for Uncensored has always been to build a global home for fearless, high-engagement content that cuts through the noise. My God. Piers developed an incredible platform, fuck off, with Uncensored that's already going head-to-head with legacy media. In today's fragmented media world, audiences are craving real conversations grounded in authenticity, rigor, and open debate. And you know where they're not going to find that? Piers Morgan. But he made a lot of money, $30 million, off of getting people to yell at each other. I just hate that people are able to make money off of the people's misery in this. Like, it's like capitalism was able to, like, even when it comes to talking about, you know, anti-capitalist topics, like, you know, it sort of, even that became like a money-making opportunity for vultures like this. Like, it's so gross. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm not making a lot of sense tonight. But I hope you're with me. Hillary, if you're there, if you enjoyed this, I so hope you've become an anti-Zionist somehow from this stream, just from listening to my beautiful, soothing voice. Oh my God, we have another comment from my bestie. Piers Morgan's attitude towards Rania was downright racist, 1,000%. I mean, I understand why she did it, like in terms of like, having her voice at least be out there, a voice that you never hear, an American Lebanese journalist, talking about Lebanon in a way you just never hear in mainstream media. I understand why she did it, but I mean, God, that had to have like been so irritating. And I mean, as you say, he was completely racist. You watch his attitude toward Abby Martin, who shares the same politics as Rania, but Rania is treated like dirt, 100%. And it's from the conditioning also of, to see people of West Asian descent, Middle Eastern descent as less than human, especially in a political sense. It reminds me actually of Tucker Carlson when he said, when the Iraq War first started, and he was so supportive, the way he talked about Iraqis was he called them semi-literate monkeys. I mean, I'll never forgive someone for saying something like that. Just call them barbarian. Like, I think the other thing he said was they need to shut up and obey. Like, just completely racist. It's ingrained in a lot of ways. Although I do hope that because of the bifurcation of the media landscape since the early 2000s, because we're all consuming sort of, it's very hard to, I guess, although the powers that be manage to succeed regardless, but it's very hard to, I guess, manipulate people via the mainstream channels. So that's why they're venturing into the independent space, like Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan and even Don Lemon. They're all stooges, right? But they're trying to sort of co-opt the style of independent media to do propaganda, the same propaganda they've always done. I think Don Lemon is like not quite as successful, but even Joy Reid started doing like, and they have the exact same politics they've always had: racism, liberalism, Christian nationalism in the case of Tucker Carlson. Anywho. Piers Morgan is a political version of Jerry Springer. Oh my God, that's the perfect analogy. Thank you for this. Can I steal it from you? I don't want to, I don't want to steal it without permission. I don't want to be a colonialist. So maybe we'll chat afterwards, after this. Oh my God, I've been babbling for an hour. Thank you, Bestie, for joining me. Thank you to the other two of you for being here. I mean, thank you for being with me. I hope this was enjoyable. If you have any clips that you think I should react to that have to do with Palestine or the one-state solution, I'd love to know. Just leave them in the comments and I'll review them tomorrow. And thank you again for being here. I feel, honestly, I'm not 1,000% sure why I'm doing these streams that nobody watches, except for the three of you that are my best friends, and I love you. And you, Hillary, of course. Well, I'll never forget or forgive you, Hillary. But I'll never forget you. Thank you for being here. Hope you learned something. And I hope you run in 2028. Just kidding. Please don't. Yeah, if you have any clips you think I should react to, I think part of why I'm doing this, honestly, is to feel a little bit less alone. And it's helping me in that sense, so thank you. See you tomorrow. And as always, free Palestine from the river to the sea.